Today we will talk about percent increase, and we are going to look at different types of problems to calculate different parts of percent increase problem items. The first thing that you need to identify is the initial value and what you started with. Then the next thing you need to identify is the final value of something. Then the increase is going to simply be final minus the initial value. The increase rate in percent then is going to be the amount of increase divided by the initial value times 100. So if you have a problem where you are given an increase amount or initial amount or the rate, you can use this formula to calculate things. When you calculate all these things, let's put back the initial amount, which is the final minus initial, in the equation. Let's put this 100 under here and rewrite this formula, and that's the formula that we'll use. So the increase rate in percent divided by 100 is going to be the amount of increase, which is final minus initial divided by the initial amount. And this formula right here is going to take care of everything. So let's try to use it. All right. Let's put this formula down here so that we remember. So we have increase rate divided by 100 is final minus initial divided by initial. Okay, so we have that formula handy right here. So let's identify the different components. My salary increased by 3%. So they are giving you the increase rate in percent. So you put that down. When we negotiated the contract, okay, I was making $70,000. So since this is in past tense, that means they gave you the initial amount. So you put 70,000. How much am I making now after the raise? So this is what they're trying to find out. How much am I making after the raise? So the final amount. So that's going to be the value of my N. Now, the intermediate step is to find the increase, the amount of increase, which is final minus initial, that I do not know. So let's go to this formula. I know that I can use a proportion. In other words, I can multiply the increase rate with the increase. That will give me the 100 times the final minus the initial, which is the increase amount. So let's go and apply this formula. The increase rate is simply 3%. So that means 3 over 100 equals the final minus the initial, which is the increase amount, divided by the initial amount, which is 70,000. Now, if I solve this proportion, I know that 3 times 70,000 equals 100 times increase. So that will give me 3 times 70,000. That is equal to 100 times increase. So when you go, you calculate the increase. you have to multiply 3 times 70,000 and divide by 100. That will give me the increase. So when you do 3 times 70,000 divided by 100, you get 2100, which is the increase amount. Here you go, 2100. Now the final amount, remember, they were asking you, the final amount is going to be then your initial amount plus the increase. So when you add those two, you're going to get 70,000 plus 2100, and that is simply $72,100, which is the end of the problem. Now let's do another problem. Let's say they're asking me, I paid $75 as sales tax. The item I bought was $1,200. What's the tax rate? All right, so this is a different type of problem. Now I paid $75 as sales tax. That means they are giving me the increase. Here you go. Now I know the initial amount was $1,200. What are they asking me? What is the tax rate? So here it is. They are asking me, what is the tax rate? So what is the final amount? If I'm paying 75 and then initially I have 1,200, the final amount is simply the increase plus the initial amount, which is going to give me 1,275. So that's actually not an important point at this point, but what I need to find out is the increase rate. And how do I calculate the increase rate? The increase rate is simply the increase. Remember, increase rate is going to be increase rate over 100. That's going to be the increase amount, which is 75, divided by initial amount, which is 1,200. So when I solve the proportion, I go increase rate, which is n, times the 1,200, and that's going to give me 75 times 100. When you go and you do that, you need to divide both sides by 1,200. So n is going to be 75 times 100 divided by 1,200. When you do that number, you're going to get 6.25, and that is actually in percent. So you can actually go and write that down. The value of n is 6.25. Now, and a different type of problem is they increased the class sizes by 8%. So they're giving me the percent increase. How many students will now be accommodated in a class that had 20 students initially? So your initial amount is 20. What are they asking me? This is similar to the first problem. They're asking me, what is the final amount? Okay, so let's try to do this problem the same way we did it. So your percent rate, which is 8 over 100, is going to be the increase amount that I don't know, divided by the initial amount, which is 20. So the increase is going to simply be increase times 100 equals 8 times 20. When you divide both sides by 100, you'll get your increase amount. And in this particular case, the increase amount is going to be 1.6, but you cannot have 1.6 students, so you have to round this up to 2 students. So we're talking about the increase of 2 students here. Then what do you need to do when you want to find the final amount? You're going to take your increase and your initial amount and add them up, and you'll end up with 22 students. All right. Let's go do one more type of problem. I'm going to roll this up a little bit right here. Okay, and do the problem right underneath. So, the price of a new stereo system increased from 4,000 to 4,800. So I'm doing this problem right underneath. So it increased from 4,000 to 4,800. So what did they just give me? They gave me the 4,000, the initial amount, 4,800, the final amount. Okay? So the amount of increase is simply the difference. The increase is going to be 4,800 minus 4,000 is 800. So you can go and write this down, 800 difference. What are they asking me? They're asking me the percent increase. That's my n. And remember how I did that problem? Percent increase, n over 100 is amount of increase, 800, divided by the initial amount, which is 4,000. So when you crisscross, you'll get 4,000 n equals 100 times 800. So n is going to be 100 times 800 divided by 4,000. When you do that, you will get 20. And that's actually in percent. So the amount of n is 20, which is 20% in this particular case.